Hello, everyone. My name is Angela Hames, and I'm going to be speaking to you about how our students can learn effectively. In this presentation, you will hear about the current ways that students learn and how those ways are not effective. You will also learn how to teach your students more effective ways to study and retain information. Here are the learning objectives for this workshop. By the end of this presentation, the learner will be able to test ideas they learn here in a classroom setting. The learner will be able to summarize some tools to teach students better study skills to use in class by the end of this presentation. When the learner is done with this presentation, he or she will be able to identify the traditional ways of learning that are not effective any longer. Here is the problem. There are two ways that most students currently use to study that are popular but ineffective. The first one is called massed practice. This is the idea of cramming as much information in your head as quickly as possible. Most students do this the night before a test. This may work for the test the next day, but does not allow for long-term retention. The second way that students currently study is called rereading the text. This is the idea of skimming the book, looking for the important things in the textbook to use for the test the next day. Then students highlight and take notes from the book and try to recall this information. This also may help for short-term recall, but the job of an educator is to make sure that students retain information permanently. Here is the meat of it all. Retrieval practice is the process of recalling facts, concepts, or events from memory. This is trying to remember something that you learned some time ago without reviewing it first. Research from the book Make It Stick by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roediger, and Mark McDaniel tells us that this concept is much better for students to use to retain the information they learn for the long haul. Recalling information from memory without reviewing it first is hard. It takes effort. Effortful learning is much better for long-term retention. Spaced practice is the practice of reviewing information previously studied before, but leaving time in between the first time the information was studied and the next time that same information was studied. The authors of Make It Stick tell us that this is an effective way for students to learn and retain information. Leaving that time in between allows for retrieval practice to be put into place. Using those two processes together make for better memory of facts. Interleaving is the process of studying more than one topic at a time and alternating back and forth between those two topics. This allows for recall of an older topic over and over so students can retain this information permanently. The research was done by the authors of the book Make It Stick show that this can be used with retrieval practice and spaced practice. These are all good processes to use together for more long-term benefits for students. Here are some ideas on how to mix up these strategies in a classroom setting. With Plickers, the teacher has a scanner and each of the students have a card with a different shape on them. The teacher can ask a multiple choice question and the students will hold up their cards when the answer they think is correct is given. The teacher will scan the room for all of the answers to see who gets the correct answer. The scanner that the teacher has automatically keeps a tally of the answers and allows the teacher to see who understands that concept and who still needs work. These can be used with retrieval practice, space practice, and interleaving practice when used appropriately in the classroom. This is an original idea. The snowball fight is an assessment tool where you give each student a piece of paper at the end of class and have them write on it a question they had from class or something that they learned from the class. Then they take the papers they wrote on, crinkle them up, get into two lines, one on each side of the room. The teacher then says, "Snowball fight," and the students throw the paper from one side of the room to the other side. Then the students pick up one of the snowballs that was thrown at them and they read it. If the students can answer each other's questions, they do. If not, the teacher can help facilitate. This activity is a great way to get even the shyest person involved and can be used for assessment. Quizzes are mentioned in the book Make It Stick by the authors as a good way to use spaced retrieval and interleaving practices in class. To do this, you would give a small non-graded quiz in class right after a lesson. Then you would come back and give another non-graded quiz 1 week later. Then in another week, you would give another non-graded quiz. The fact that they are not graded allows the student to stress less about a quiz. These can then be used as more of a teaching tool than an assessment. The students are still retrieving the material, and the space practice has been utilized in the time between the quizzes. I have used this in my own classroom, and the students seem to really like it. Quick writing prompts can be used before class even begins. You give the students a piece of paper and give them 5 minutes to recall something they've learned in a class thus far. This allows them time to remember prior data, and there's no stress to be called on or answer questions in front of others. You can also use this with the interleaving practice by giving them 2 topics and telling them to recall what they know about both. Doing these multiple times throughout the year will allow them to recall and retain the information learned earlier, since these are spaced out over time. Thank you very much for attending my workshop. I hope you take with you many different ways to effectively teach your students.